I didn't even put on the docket. That's how uninterested I am in a $13 billion raise. It's just, it's just regular.
Welcome to the Vibe Flow with Jordan and Will. Let's go. Tech news and AI trends. Tune in now with your friends.
Hello, Will.
What's up, Jordan? Happy Vibe Flow.
Happy Vibe Flow. Do you recognize anything new in my background?
I was going to say, is that like a special Woflow bottle of tequila or something you have behind you?
That would be something. Like the all-in version of their tequila. It's the Vibe Flow tequila. No, it's actually just a trinket or a tchotchke, whatever you call them.
Tchotchke.
I was at a dinner party, and this was literally just on a mantle, and I was like, that's my logo. And they're like, really? Just got it from Pier 1 Imports. So I think actually Pier 1 Imports just took our logo. So I stole it.
So why did you end up with it? Yeah, you stole it from...
I took it.
Where was this party? On the record.
Stolen. I was very excited to show it on the Vibe Flow. Anyway, how are you? You ready to rock and roll?
Ready to boogie. I'm over in our New York office for a few days over here for a wedding between two of the Woflow's favorite employees. So very excited for that. You're flying in tomorrow?
I will be there tomorrow. I'm very excited.
Very excited for this wedding.
Cool. Let us dive in. Let's start with some tension over at Meta. Do you all remember OpenAI did a reverse acqui-hire, if you will, of the Scale AI team, mainly to acquire Alex Wang, allegedly, but that's for them to talk about. So sounds like there's a little shakeup. Little cracks are forming. It doesn't have tons of specifics, but there are a few of the original VPs from Scale that have left within just a couple months of joining Meta. They are still using some of the Scale AI's competitors internally, and so it's causing a little bit of a ruckus. Have you done any deep dives on this? Have you thought about it? What's your synopsis?
The first time I saw it, I don't know if you saw it as well, but when it hit the timeline, it looked like Alexander Wang had departed. It was written kind of salaciously where they tweeted it, and they put like Scale AI executive Alex Wang, blah, 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 and everyone's like, what? And then you actually click on the story, it's not Alex, it's other executives that Alex Wang brought over to Meta. So I think they were doing a little bit of clickbait at TechCrunch to get us to click on it. But
it worked.
Yeah, I think so. I think that the main person that they're talking to is Ruben Mayer, who's departed. It sounds like maybe it was already kind of like happening, and that this is part of the deal, and that they were never going to be part of this MSL group. Yeah, I think the more interesting part of this whole piece was there's a little bit of back and forth that people were saying that maybe Scale AI's tech and system and service isn't as great as some of the other ones that have come out kind of since, like Macaw or Surge. So Meta's definitely using those, and plus probably a bunch of other annotators as well to actually get all of the data they need. And so it kind of begs the question a little bit of like, what was this like very high price paid for? They paid 14 billion, right? And that was for like 49%. So that's like a 28 billion price tag on Scale AI. So, like, what are they actually buying if they're also using other groups? So, unsure entirely.
Yep. Very interesting. The piece that really struck with me was Scale was one of the very early data labelers, and all of these large language models need huge, huge, huge corpuses of data. And so they made their fortune off of like the very beginning, the first inning, if you will, of that era. As the language models have all gotten way better, it's required way different data than Scale was producing in the beginning. And so Scale was built for very dumb tasks, very dumb data. They've evolved, they can produce high quality data, but they were built for the early days. The Surges and the other competitors, they've all been built from the ground up to be able to produce super high quality data. So they're saying maybe just fundamentally the foundation of these newer Scale AIs are actually better. And so was that price tag worth it, or was there some legacy cost to that?
Yeah, there's definitely an element of that. I think the easy stuff to label has already been labeled, right? And it's already been added to LLMs. So there's like limited upside to certain labeling data sets. Everything they need now is kind of on the edge, the more frontier data. And that is things like you need to pay for PhDs in very specific parts of mathematics or physics or biology to actually do some labeling around those very specific niche topics. Some of these platforms I'm seeing is like they're paying, $100, $150 an hour to these labelers. So very high-end labeling relative to what Scale was originally doing, which was a lot of visual annotation for self-driving cars. So they built a really great suite for like how to do this quickly, low-cost labor overseas, that kind of stuff. And there's a question of like how much of that is still very valuable in this time of day when specifically a lot of the models are now wanting to train on much higher end data types, which is much more requiring of like PhD level candidates. And that's a whole different concept altogether.
It begs the question, what is labeling these days? It's very confusing. Like, what are these people actually labeling? I know companies like Ravello is an example. They're a software engineering recruiting company, or kind of, they also just can put together like huge teams of engineers for startups and for enterprises. And I know that they have a huge business just making, I suppose, labeling data with engineers for the training sets, but I don't know exactly what that means. Are they just like annotating code? I don't really know, but the labeling has gotten very, very advanced. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to one that you brought up, Will. I haven't actually dove too deep into it, but I know Mistral, or the company behind Mistral, has added some custom MCP connectors, and I'm curious why you wanted to bring this up. I wasn't super excited about it, but let's see what you got for me, Will.
I was excited to see this. So Mistral AI is out of France, and it's a LLM competitor to OpenAI and to Claude. They have a chatbot very similar to ChatGPT. It's called Le Chat because it's French, so it's got a great name. But you don't really hear about it, right? Like the Mistral team, they were once, maybe 2 years ago, seen right up there, and I think them and Cohere have kind of been a little bit more quieter behind the scenes as Anthropic and OpenAI have really taken a lot of the lion's share of revenue and user growth. So I thought this was really interesting, kind of bouncing back a little bit. I've kind of gone into their chat recently just to kind of check it out. Everyone has connectors. It's like something that you definitely need if you want to add context to your LLM. And there's very simple ones, which they all have today, which is like connect your Google Suite. So you can have your access to emails, access to calendars. Like these are pretty standard features that you need. What I saw was interesting here, what they announced is they're doing memories as well, which allows memory across these different connectors, which is interesting. But what they are out the box launching for free for every tier is actually like more like enterprise secure connectors, which is typically kind of like an enterprise level plan that you need to pay for. So if you're a consumer or a prosumer on ChatGPT, you typically don't get access to the level of connectors that LeChat are offering everyone for free. So it's things like access to Databricks, access to Snowflake, access to Notion and Zapier and Plaid. So like these are much more enterprisey level connectors. They're all MCP in their basis, which is super interesting as well. It's not an API level of doing this, it's MCP. So I think it's super cool. Asana is another big one. Like these are typically maybe like in the earlier version of the web, if you paid for Snowflake and you wanted to connect it to Asana, you'd probably have to pay another $20K a year to get that connector. Now they're kind of offering very heavy duty enterprise grade connectors for free out of the box, which I thought was super interesting. I think it's maybe their competitive advantage. Maybe people will move over on that. I bet that's kind of what they're hoping for. I think my hope is this makes it more accessible for everyone else and more competitive for everyone else to also add these connectors. I don't think today you can out the box get Databricks and Snowflake connectors in ChatGPT. I think you have to really pay for some sort of enterprise plan to get that. So I thought it was super interesting what they're doing.
My assumption is you will get it soon. I don't think that OpenAI is ever going to fall behind in these like connectivity as a service pieces, right? Like they're definitely going to be adding these, especially if Le Chat is using either an API or some sort of MCP that's built in on top of like Databricks, then it's going to be very, very, very easy for OpenAI to just do the same thing. I don't know if it's a competitive advantage. I don't know if it's cost that you're saying is a competitive advantage. I think pretty soon they'll all have them. I know out of the box, OpenAI does offer like Google Drive and Notion and some other more consumer ones. You are right, is definitely more of a consumer profile, but I can imagine they will be ramping this up shortly.
Yeah.
Which
This
I believe
is like, Databricks,
Yeah.
Snowflake, Box. These today aren't available out the box with something like ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So hopefully they're going to add it. I will say here, I've just noticed as well, it was so good they added it twice. The Workato MCP, it's so good. It's so helpful. They've got to mention it twice.
Or they're like, God, we really need to finish this design and we don't have one more integration. What's the one people are going to think about the least? Okay, it's this one for sure. Well, actually, this is a great segue because I think OpenAI are going to be doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down on product, right? Application products. So they are a research house, but on top of that are these amazing products. They just acquired a company called StatSig that was actually pretty surprising to me. I don't know if you have any thoughts on it, but it did not seem like a typical acquisition for OpenAI. If you don't know StatSig, they are basically a feature testing platforms, like A/B testing different features, different flows for your product. I think there's the competitors to StatSig would be like, what was that one company? It was like one of the original A/B testing companies. I can't remember it. We'll throw it in after post-processing. Anyway, the whole purpose of this article and the whole purpose of what they're talking about is they're really trying to bring more products into their suite. And so by doing this is giving them a leg up in building products. And Will, I don't know if you read this. Maybe I'm thinking of this wrong, but this to me was really surprising because this isn't a product they're going to be offering to their customers. This is like truly like a tool for them to use internally to make better products. And the price tag was $1 billion. So a lot of times you see these types of like tool acquisitions much less expensive. Like this is a huge price to pay for like an A/B testing platform. They did say they are acquiring, well, obviously all of the people, but the CEO is now becoming the CTO of, I believe, applications. Is that what it was?
Yeah. They have a CEO of applications who came from Instacart, right? That we covered like a month or so ago. They now have a CTO of applications.
That's right. So now they took him, and he is now the CTO. So is this another acquisition just to get the talent? Are they going to just shut down the product? Doesn't really say much, but I just don't think it fits perfectly into like their product ecosystem. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because I think the applications team within OpenAI was very focused on new products, and specifically with bringing in Fiji from Instacart was very much like a nod towards how they're going to think about shopping and e-commerce and those pieces. This is a little bit of a departure now if the CTO is coming from much more of like an enterprise workflow sort of company. So are applications going to be kind of prosumer facing, or are they going to be more internal as well, like you're talking about tools? So I think maybe applications is like a catch-all word for a ton of different products in very different areas. So I think it's super interesting. Obviously, we cover a lot here, the talent wars that are very much heated up, and people are paying hundreds of millions of dollars for great talent. So maybe $1 billion for StatSig, if they've got some great talent, is actually cheap on the mark. Especially this was an all stock deal, so no cash was actually used to make this acquisition. So again, if you're very comfortable with the valuation of OpenAI, and assuming at one point it can actually be a private company and eventually a public company, and people are actually making some money out of the stock, then it could be very valuable for StatSig employees to come in, even at this very high valuation that they'll be getting in this deal. I think it makes sense. The news, I don't remember if we covered it last week or 2 weeks ago now. Everything's moving so fast. Anthropic acquired Human Loop, which was like an eval team as well, to bring them internally to again help improve their products, their eval suite, their prompting suite. So it does seem that both of these companies, obviously very highly competitive, Anthropic and OpenAI, doing a lot of big deals. A part of that, like if it can help speed up their product suite and their product roadmap, then they're more than willing to make very pricey acquisitions for the talent or for the product. So really interesting to see. The other news that came out, I think today on Anthropic side as well, is they just raised another $13 billion for the company. So huge round for them. Incredible to see how fast these deals are happening. I think it was only a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago or a year ago, when like a $10 billion private round was like absolutely unheard of. And now there's like many companies, whether it's XAI or OpenAI or Anthropic, are doing these huge deals now to bring in more money. I think it's all going into compute, it's all going into energy, it's all going into H100. So it's just a wild time to be in AI for sure.
Yeah, I didn't even put on the docket. That's how uninterested I am in a $13 billion raise. It's just, it's just regular. Also, side note on StatSig, I remember we were in LA at a summit a couple of years ago, and I think the head of product was presenting, and I really, really liked her presentation. It was like right after COVID, or it could have been like the tail end of COVID, and they were 100% in office. And I was like, it was like unheard of. I don't even know a company that's like hybrid yet. And they were already back in office, and they were in Bellevue, Washington. And so I just looked at their About Us page recently, and their culture looks awesome. So I bet you that the acquisition itself, you have to fit into the OpenAI culture. I know the OpenAI culture is very in office and very fun and cohesive. So I'm glad they're going, and I'm sure they'll have a lovely home. Okay, lastly here, this is an insanely random story. I saw it, has nothing to do with tech, kind of, but it has to do with San Francisco, and San Francisco is kind of tech.
San Francisco.
So let me just share this.
San Francisco is tech.
It is. Will, did you know that San Francisco owns this little town called Moccasin? Did you know this?
No. Where is this? In Sierra Nevada. Okay. Near
It's
Tahoe.
crazy. So this little town
owned
has
by
like
a city?
Yeah, it has like, I think I said like 60 people or something. This is where some of the power plant and water facilities for San Francisco live. And so this little town in Sierra Nevada called Moccasin has like 200 people. They all work for the city of San Francisco to keep these facilities running. It provides the power for City Hall, all the street lights, and like a couple other random things in the city. And it produces, it gets all of the water from the Hetch Hetchy. So it has like the water facility. It's crazy. It's just this like little town. It's got nothing in it except for a few people who run some things that help San Francisco. It's crazy. That's it. That's my story.
Is that what we're going to be doing in the future? Is like we need access to all this energy for these huge training clusters. So we're going to, like, Anthropic's going to go out and buy a town so they can divert all of the energy, all the electricity into their data center.
It's possible. This is the beginning. They're 100 years ahead of their time, but this is what they've done.
We're ahead of
Moccasin.
the curve in San Francisco then.
Always.
In that regard.
Always.
We got City Hall needs its lights on, so we've got to acquire.
Got to keep the
small
lights
town.
on. Got to keep the lights on. Well, Will, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow in New York.
Look forward to seeing your dance moves at this this wedding. Bring your dancing shoes. We'll see you in New York.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.